Hello everyone, in today's video I'm going to be counting down my top 10 melee weapons for Steel Path in 2024. With these melee weapons, all you need to do is pick them up, slash and dash through enemies including acolytes and make Steel Path a breeze. So if that sounds interesting, let's get into it. With the many different additions and changes in Warframe considering melee, we have Tennokai, we have melee arcanes, and of course that changes up the game a lot. Now, do you need them to make these weapons viable? No, you definitely do not. Do they increase the capabilities? Definitely yes. So if you can, use both if you possibly can. But I do want to mention, we do have Revenant as our test dummy. He's our little guinea pig. He does not buff our weapons in any sort of way. I do not have a Panzer Profiler, even though I do recommend it if you possibly can, and I use the Epitaph as my primary primer. You can use the Kuvenukor and Orcedo, it is completely up to you. Now, Tennokai. What is Tennokai? Basically, using one of these 5 mods down below, you're gonna unlock Tennokai. This gives you, every time you melee strike, a 15% chance for this little icon to appear, and when it does, you have a faster heavy attack windup speed, and your heavy attack does not waste your combo counter, so this is very good. That's why I'm saying, if you possibly can, get yourself Tennokai through Master's Legacy at least, just having it unlocked. But Amalgam Organ Shatter is a mod that you might have. I don't have it because 2 years ago I have sold it and I do not have it anymore. But what I want you guys to use it on heavy attack builds. I will mention it in the gameplay, but this is just so you know. One last thing before I go, of course, one massive thank you to Toasted Spectre for being the first member on the Gaming Weasel YouTube channel. So thank you very much love to you, and if anybody wants to join, you definitely can. I'm still working on that as well, but of course enjoy the video. I love every single one of you guys, and I'll see you at the end. In the number 10 spot we have the Prisma Oma. You might be actually quite surprised that we have this weapon on here, but this weapon is actually incredibly good, and when I refreshed my memory with all of these weapons recently, I found out that this weapon is really good against acolytes as well. Now, what makes this weapon actually that good? First of all, it's a Tonfas weapon. Tonfas weapons have this of course stance called Sovereign Outcast. Very good stance, making you attack a lot and giving you a lot of range. Now, the good thing about this weapon is it has innate electricity, which means you can combine it into corrosive, which makes it cool, fine and dandy, but if you keep the electricity and then just put on melee influence, it's going to be much better. Now, melee influence, basically what this does, when you proc electricity, you have a 20% chance of spreading the enemy status effects to nearby enemies in a maximum of 20 meters. Now, that's actually very good because that means if you apply viral, that's gonna spread that as well, and every single element does get spread. So you can basically chain a nuke with this weapon. I was really surprised when I refreshed my memory because the amount of status effects that you apply on enemies is incredibly good. And you may be thinking, well, acolytes are pretty, tolerant to status effects. Well, apparently to this weapon, no, you're basically gonna destroy them like it's nothing. So this weapon is actually a really good surprise. You can get it through Borrow Katir and or through the Warframe market, maybe for like 50-60 platinum, if not a little bit more, but a good weapon to get and definitely a must-have. I do really recommend this weapon as a sort of like a different Tonfas alternative, but we're gonna be moving on to the number 9 spot. In the number 9 spot, we have my favorite personal Incarnon. It is the Ceramic Dagger Incarnon. Now, the Ceramic Dagger, if you're watching this on the week of the release of this video, you can actually pick it up, so definitely do. This is my favorite weapon, going with Kalervo. I am gonna be using it with Revenant, but it is an efficient killer in itself. Now, its Incarnon form basically allows you to launch melee projectiles at enemies. Keep in mind, they actually can headshot, so basically turning you into Baruch. Now, with the build up on screen, this is going to be much more enjoyable, and you can get this with, I guess, any Warframe where you can launch heavy attacks basically as much as you possibly can. Now, I do have to say, I did cheat a little bit because of the Incarnon evolutions that are probably going up on screen right now. I need to get 100 kills with my primary to increase my, I guess, starting off combo counter, so I definitely did that, but it doesn't really matter because this weapon is still pretty amazing. So, of course, I do want to mention that we do use Dreamer's Wrath. It is not necessarily really that important, but it's going to be pretty good because it's going to allow you to do melee heavy attacks for free. So yeah, I definitely do recommend in this situation, if you possibly can, do pick it up. But we're going to be picking up with the number 8 spot. In the number 8 spot, we have the Dual Ichor Incarnate. Now, this weapon is amazing. I love this weapon. The Dual Ichor in itself is pretty good for base game, and you can pretty much use it throughout the base game, but the Incarnate mode makes this so much better. The evolutions are gonna just run in the background. Keep that in mind. You're probably noticing that by now, but I am gonna be showing that right there. But the mod setup is very good. This is the mod setup where I use on just base enemies. I do have a Saren and an Enoros build with this, and it is really cool. Now here, for example, opportunities reach is not necessarily important. You get enough range anyway, but this weapon slashes fast. It is dual swords, of course. It has incredibly good stats for a weapon, and the toxin clouds that actually appear inside of the incarnate form are actually really good, and you can spread a lot of damage, and you can especially kill corpus units with this incredibly fast. I love this weapon, and it surprises me sometimes by how good it is on its own without, for example, Saren and or Enoros actually boosting it. So a really good weapon, definitely a must look and a must have. But we're gonna move on to the number 7 spot. Number 7, we have the Quasis, I have no idea, it's a fan. This is what it looks, I mean, that's the name up there. I have no idea how to pronounce it, but this weapon is actually a really big surprise to me. I actually used this weapon when it came out. I think I leveled it up like 3 or 4 times. I thought it was a good weapon, but not good enough to make a video on. But then I actually got into, of course, Tennokai and a little bit of the melee arcanes. The special attribute of this weapon is its heavy attack basically launches daggers that do proc slash. So you're gonna get slashed through that, and you're gonna get, of course, the melee heavy attacks through your Tennokai, which is going to be even better. And here, we're at the build, you can actually change out Dreamer's Wrath for Discipline's Principle. It's this mod here, I'm probably mispronouncing the name, but this is the mod. You can change it out for that, and that's gonna basically make it constant, so every 4 you're always gonna get a Tennokai move, making you basically slash everything around you. And they actually do have a travel time as well, so you can actually hit enemies from afar, so that's pretty cool. And of course, Acolytes are pretty much not a threat here. One weapon I do actually want to mention is going to be the Gunson, which is going to be very good as well, but without the special, I guess, heavy attack feature, but a good war fan nonetheless. But we're gonna be moving on to the number 6 spot. In number 6, we have one of my tried and true and tested weapons. It is the Dual Keras Prime. I love this weapon. This is a weapon that you can get and basically just mod it however, and it's always gonna work. Now, the modding that I did is this one right here, and honestly, I love this weapon. It is just a normal Prime weapon, not an incarnate, not nothing. It's just a normal weapon, and it's really good. It is a dual sword again. It actually reminds me of my first weapon, the Dual Ether Swords, which I used like when I started off the game, and this is basically a better variant of that. This is a really good, fun weapon where you don't necessarily need to worry about anything, not even your combo counter or even condition overload, honestly, in the gameplay itself. So this weapon is a lot of fun. If you do make it for Prime Pressure Point, it is actually very good as well, so keep that in mind, I guess, if you do want to make it like that. But I think that was short and sweet for you guys. We're gonna move on to the number 5 spot. In the number 5 spot, we have a wombo combo. It is going to be the Glaive Prime, the Zorus, and the Serrata. Now, I didn't want to like put all 3 of them in separate ones, so I'm gonna combine them into one. Now, we're gonna go, I guess, Glaive is gonna be best basically against everything. It does a lot of slash, it explodes. You can get it now because it's unvolted, so definitely pick this weapon up, if not more, so you can sell it for platinum. But this weapon is incredibly good against Grineer, Corrupted, anything. Now, of course, if we're gonna use the Zorus, which is sort of gonna be like beginner base because you get it with the Protea quest, it is going to be really good against almost everything as well. Corpus are a little bit, iffy, but you do have Toxin, so it's not really a worry. But if you want to be having a good glaive at the beginning of the game, it is the Serrata. Now, the Serrata is really good against Corpus enemies, but it is actually really good against normal enemies as well. It definitely can't be used until you get the Zorus and or even the Glaive Prime. So there you go, the triple threat of the triple glaives. We're gonna be moving on to the number 4 spot. In the number 4 spot, we have the Cronin Prime and its incarnate brother, the Praetos. Now, both of these weapons are incredibly amazing. They're Tonfas weapons. I'm a Tonfas enjoyer. The Cronin Prime is one of the more sought after weapons in the game. It is just really good. And you can get the Praetos. It is also very nice, if not better in most situations. I just have the Cronin Prime a little bit closer to my heart. Nonetheless, a lot of slash damage. The build looks like this. We have viral. It is just a plain and simple build, nothing too special, just the stance itself, the Sovereign Outcast stance makes this weapon really good because of the moveset, the range, as I said when I was talking about the Oma. It's just a really good stance, and with this, a really good weapon, just a solid weapon through and through. So when you get the chance, definitely pick this weapon up, and also pick up the Praetos. It is very good as well, a lot of slash, a lot of damage. But we're gonna be moving on to number 3. In the number 3 spot, we have the OG Incarnin, we have the Enedem. Now this is the only dagger basically that I use, I guess, other than the ceramic dagger, but we're not counting that as a dagger. But the Enedem is an OG, of course, Incarnin. It is very good. The range increase that you get on this is incredible, and if you use opportunities reach like I do, it is going to be even better, because with the actual Tennokai attack you can even reach further, so it's very good, even though it doesn't stack with reach, so keep that in mind. But the range is enormous. The damage is very good as well. Of course, being a dagger has fast attack, which I love on weapons, and of course acolytes, as with most of these weapons, are just not a threat. They're there to be basically just, you know, get rid of. But the Enedem, a really good melee weapon, a really fun dagger, and there's probably a lot more combinations that you can do with this weapon, but if you want to use it as a melee weapon, you definitely can. So we're gonna be moving on to the number 2 spot. In the number 2 spot, we have a newcomer to the game. It is going to be Harmony. Now Harmony is incredibly good. Harmony is a weapon that came along with the Jade Shadows, and this weapon has this special trait. Now when you apply status effects that do damage over time, like Toxin, Heat, Slash, Electricity, then it's gonna group all of them up in one heavy attack, and if you have Tennokai, it might be even free without using up your combo, and then dish it all out in a heavy blow, and believe me, it is a heavy blow. Now what helps out with this heavy blow but is not needed, as I mentioned, melee afflictions. Now enemies affected by status effects gain 6 additional status effects if they get knocked down or lifted up in the air with the melee weapon. This being of course a Reaping Spiral Scythe is going to be very good because it is going to lift up enemies, and believe me, those enemies are going to be in a world of hurt, and acolytes especially, when you do get to punch them with a heavy attack. This is one of the best newest weapons with a cool little feature added into Warframe, and I do definitely think that everybody should use this and have as much fun as possible with this. But we're going to be moving on to the honorable mentions. Warframe being a big game, and of course having a lot of melee weapons, that means I'm not going to hit every single mark, but some of the melee weapons that I personally enjoy are going to be the Guandao Prime, the Nami Skyla Prime, that is also a very good weapon. The Legion is very good, and I cannot wait for the day when this weapon gets an Incarnate adapter. The Orthos as well is still pretty good. I wouldn't say the best, but I love playing it. The Stropha is nice. I do prefer the Redeemer though, and the Grandpa Prime and the Reaper Prime are very fun as well. I do wait for the day until we get melee lich weapons, but until then we have the number 1 spot, and the number 1 spot is taken up by the Nikana Prime. The Nikana Prime is, in my opinion, a weapon that everybody, you know, just pick it up and do a lot of slash damage, do a lot of damage with your heavy attacks especially. Those acolytes are gonna disappear. I love using katanas as well, so there's a little bit of bias here, I do have to say, but I do enjoy this weapon, and I think you're gonna enjoy it as well. The moveset is incredibly fun to use. You don't necessarily need a lot for this weapon to make it work because of the damage being that good as well, and you don't have to worry about anything because, well, it's just an amazing weapon. But if this video was amazing, I do and I would appreciate you leaving a like, a comment down below on what you think of the list, what weapons maybe that I missed out on, maybe some weapons that I forgot, maybe some weapons that you think that are incredibly amazing, and how dare I not mention them. You can mention all that in the comment section down below, and do subscribe for more if you want more lists where you can comment down on why I didn't mention your weapon or Warframe. I love every single one of you guys, and I'll see you guys on the next one. This has been the Gaming Weasel, over and out.